Hey, what is going on, guys? My name is Gamertag and I'm back for your daily Fortnite video. Today's video we're going to be going over, I suppose you could call them Fortnite myths, where essentially you guys comment a myth or something you're curious about in the game and I go ahead and test it out, obviously in this video. For example, what would happen if a henchman jumps on a launch pad? Or what would happen if you drive a boat in the steamy stacks? Would you go flying in the air? And so on and so forth. So I thought you guys would be very interested for me to do a video where I try out a bunch of different myths and see what the result is. And honestly, some of these results are quite shocking. So if you guys have any myths or something you're curious about that you'd like me to try out in a future video, definitely comment them down below and I'll be sure to feature them in future videos. Without further ado, let's go ahead and hop right into these. So the first one is, what would happen if a henchman goes inside of the grotto wind tunnel? Now, most of you guys know the grotto is a location in Fortnite where basically a lot of the henchmen spawn, and over here there is a big wind tunnel, kind of like the steamy stacks, where if you go inside of it, you can fly out and then glide over to a different point in the map. So obviously it'd be really interesting to see what would happen if a henchman goes inside of here. Now, unfortunately, it is not possible for henchmen to walk inside of the wind tunnel, simply due to the fact that they have their own sort of course that they have to follow and boundaries as well. So what we have to do is we have to knock a henchman first, carry him over to the wind tunnel, and then throw him inside of it. So you guys can see when we throw the henchman inside of the wind tunnel, he actually goes flying in the air, and this honestly surprised me a lot. I was expecting the henchman to remain on the ground and not basically go flying in the air, as you guys can see. So he stays kind of in the knocked position, I believe, but he also still goes up in the air, and basically there's no helping it at this point. He kind of goes up in the air. When he comes back down, he floats up again, and it kind of repeats over and over again until, of course, time runs out and he ends up getting eliminated. So I was not expecting this to happen at all, and honestly I find this to be a pleasant surprise because I thought this whole animation and obviously look is quite funny. Moving on, what would happen if you're disguised as a henchman and throw down decoys? Would the decoys take shot at henchmen and vice versa? So basically all we have to do here is disguise ourselves as a henchman, find decoys, and throw them down. I was not expecting the decoys to actually take shots or take damage as well from the henchmen, so you guys can see when we throw them down, of course, the decoys are not disguised as well, and they do actually end up taking shots at the henchmen, and the henchmen, of course, trade shots back. So this one I was also not expecting, and I think it's kind of funny to watch them fight as well. Next is, what would happen if you throw a henchman on a launch pad while he is knocked? Now, basically, I'm sure a lot of you guys are expecting the same thing to happen as when we did with the wind tunnel. You throw it in the wind tunnel, he goes flying in the air, so of course this should follow the same mechanics, where he should jump off the launch pad and go flying in the air. So basically all we need to do is knock a henchman down, place a launch pad on the ground, and then throw the henchman on it. Well, you guys can see basically when this happens, the henchman actually kind of just stays on the launch pad rather than flying in the air or anything like that. He stays in the knocked position on the launch pad and does not go anywhere at all. This one, of course, is a bit of a letdown. I thought it would have been hilarious if he went flying in the air, as honestly I was expecting, but you guys can see that is not the case. And to be quite honest, this took so long. First of all, it's hard enough to find a launch pad as it is, especially in this small area, and then to be able to set it down and then bring a henchman over here and throw it down honestly took me like 3 to 4 hours, believe it or not. So all the time and effort that I put into this very tedious mission, honestly, again, I was very let down by the result. I wish the henchman would have flown into the air. Following up is, what would happen if you drive a boat inside of the steamy stacks? Obviously, the steamy stack towers are essentially the same thing as the grotto wind tunnel. You go inside of them, you can fly really high up in the air and then go glide wherever you'd like. So honestly, this one I was a bit nervous for because I definitely wanted to be able to fly around in the boat. I thought that would have been hilarious and a lot of fun. However, I was not expecting this to obviously be in the game at all. I thought basically the boat would just fly maybe a little bit or even just remain on the ground as expected. So this one was very easy. We have to land at steamy stacks, go ahead and locate a boat, which is not too difficult, and then drive our way over into the stacks themselves. We finally make our way over to steamy stacks with the boat and driving inside, and you guys can see we actually end up flying in the air. Again, I was not expecting this to happen whatsoever, so I was definitely pleasantly surprised, and honestly this is a lot of fun. You can sit here and do flips and barrel rolls for as long as you want and as many as you'd like. You can obviously use the turbo booster in the back to go shooting higher in the air or in any direction you would like. Of course, if you want to get out of the boat, you can feel free to exit it. You can change seats. Honestly, there's really a lot of fun to be had by using this little trick in Fortnite. And honestly, it would be so much fun to do this with a full squad on the boat and playing with your friends. This would be hilarious and again, a lot of fun as well. So again, this one definitely works. I was super happy about it. And honestly, again, it's a lot of fun. So I definitely recommend you guys try it out for yourselves. You certainly would not be disappointed. The next myth is, what would happen if you shake down an opponent or a henchman while they're knocked over a ledge or a cliff? This one is also kind of difficult just based on the positioning, so all we had to do first is collect materials, build up extremely high of course to the point where if anybody were to fall from here they would take immediate fall damage and get eliminated. Then we had to knock a henchman and carry him all the way up the stairs. So basically we had to drop him on the edge just perfectly and then shake him down, basically holding him over the edge of the cliff or build that we have. It took me a couple tries, and you guys can see the general consensus was that this would not work. Basically, no matter how you do it or how you position yourself, the henchman actually won't go over the edge, almost as if there's an invisible barrier. I was about to give up after trying about 3 or 4 different times and having the exact same result, but I figured I would just try it one more time to see if I could get the positioning a little better. Fortunately enough, I actually landed it perfectly, so as you guys can see, as we shake down the henchman right over the edge of the cliff, my player actually throws him over the edge. The henchman goes all the way to the bottom and ends up getting eliminated, of course due to fall damage. This exact same thing should happen with an opponent. I doubt any mechanics would be very different. So again, this one's a bit difficult to do. If you were to try it for yourself, it would certainly take a few tries and obviously a lot of time and effort, but in the end, it's definitely something really funny to do. Let's say you're playing in a duo or a squad match and you end up knocking somebody. It'd be extremely funny to throw them off the edge by using the shakedown animation, as you guys can see. The next myth is what would happen if you jump on a launch pad while carrying a knocked henchman. Now before we try this one out, comment what you think the result will be. Do you think I'll go flying in the air while carrying a henchman? Do you think maybe it won't work at all? Maybe I won't go launching at all and I'll actually be able to stand on the launch pad? Again, comment what you think will happen, because honestly what I was expecting was not really what happened. So we saw that when you throw a henchman on a launch pad, he doesn't go flying at all. He kind of just sits on the launch pad and then walks off, or crawls off rather. However, on the other side of the spectrum, when you throw him in the wind tunnel, he goes flying way up in the air. So this one obviously is kind of like a wild card and certainly on the fence. Well, basically when you hold a henchman and jump on a launch pad at the exact same time, you guys can see that you actually drop the henchman, but you go flying in the air. Obviously, this is definitely not one of the options I was expecting to happen. I figured either we'd both go way up in the air and kind of have a weird animation, or it just would not work at all. So again, when you jump on the launch pad while carrying a henchman, you go flying in the air, he kind of drops out of your hands and then goes ahead and crawls off the launch pad. Now, I'd certainly be lying if I said I was pleasantly surprised by this result, but at the same time, it's definitely not the worst thing that could happen. It's still a funny animation in of itself and not something you see quite often. But I'm hoping that Epic maybe sees this or something like this and actually implements it where you can go ahead and fly around off a launch pad while carrying either a knocked henchman or a knocked opponent. I think that would be absolutely hilarious and definitely could make for a lot of fun in the game itself. So the next one is what would happen if you throw a decoy down on a launch pad. I was expecting the same thing to happen as when you throw down a knocked henchman, but basically they just land on the launch pad and then walk off. Well, as you guys can see in the gameplay, when you actually go ahead and try this out for yourself, the decoy actually does go flying into the air and pulls out a glider. You guys can see I did it a couple times and both times it worked. They basically went flying into the air, glided down slowly, and that was the result. Definitely not disappointing by any means at all, and this would be hilarious if it's like a 1v1 scenario, obviously 2 people left in the game, and you throw down like 9 decoys onto the launch pad and then jump on the launch pad yourself, and there's like 10 of you flying around. This would be absolutely hilarious, and honestly it might be worth trying out in a video in the future. Let me know. So that's going to be all the myths of today's video, guys. Comment down below your favorite myth, as well as one that you found to be quite entertaining, and then also if you have any myths you would like to see me try out in a future video, maybe you're curious about what would happen if you tried something in the game, definitely feel free to comment it down below, and if it's worth putting in a future video, I certainly will shout you out and credit you in that video. I'm definitely open to making more of these in the future because honestly it was a lot of fun and entertaining, despite the fact that it was definitely tedious and repetitive and certainly time consuming at times, but again, nonetheless, it was still a lot of fun. Now if you guys enjoyed today's video or found it entertaining, feel free to leave a like down below, as I certainly would appreciate that endlessly. And of course, on the contrary, if you genuinely dislike today's video, then by all means feel free to leave a dislike as well. And of course, if you guys are new around here and would like to see more daily Fortnite content like this in the future, then feel free to subscribe as well as turning on those post notifications. Anyways, with all of that out of the way, my name is HENCHMAN. Thank you all for watching today's video, and I'll definitely see you guys tomorrow. Adios.